Welcome to the FTR, that's Friday Training Race here on Zwift. This is A. Williams speaking to you live with a great play-by-play of all the action that's going to be happening today. And right now we're with Weidman, who is leader of the FTR. This is going to be a little rollout. And the guys are all lining up behind Weidman. Today in the A's we've got Weidman, Copex, Pate, Garcia. In the C group it's got Gill, Dodsworth, and the B group at the moment is just one man, Lemon. A lot of times when these things start off, they start all together, and then whoever survives is how the race turns out. And the way it works in the reverse direction is the riders basically do some sort of warm-up pace between this zone and then the final bridge before the climb is where everything starts off. So once they hit that bridge, it's going to be game on. And we'll see some pretty exciting racing. I'm looking forward to it. And the riders right now are making a few remarks about the drafting bug. This is something that's been more recent on Zwift. It has been a difficult situation for those of us that are doing group rides and races. What it boils down to is currently in the beta here on Zwift, people are finding it difficult to stay in the draft of other riders. They have a tendency to get shoved off to the side and just spend a whole lot of time riding next to someone and really not actually get any sort of draft benefit. This may not matter so much to riders that are riding solo, or if you're just doing a sort of friendly group ride pace. But when you get into situations of high intensity racing and competitive group riding, that's where it becomes really crucial. And you'll notice sometimes that the guys are going to burn up every match they've got, and when it comes time for them to sit in the draft, they can't make it in there, and then pop, there they go right off the back. So that's what the riders are talking about when they refer to the draft bug. So at the moment we're following Weidman. He's in the back of the FTRA group, who's actually the ride leader. Once we get to the point of the ride starting, Weidman should give us the go-ahead, and then we'll be racing. Sometimes you get a few other riders that sort of mix it up with these race groups. Hargreave right now is already 15.2 miles into his ride, and he's clearly done some hard riding as he's wearing the polka dot climbers jersey, but you're probably not going to be seeing him for the duration of this event. It's more likely that he just happens to be here at the same time. The riders have to watch out for that, because when they do end up mixing up with people that are not specifically in their race, it can become confusing, and it can actually upset the tactics of the race. So you really have to do the best you can to be aware of who's racing and who's just happens to be riding in the same general area. Now, if you take a close look at some of these riders here, you'll see that the output is still considerably below race pace. You've got 2.4 watts per kilogram, 2.0, 1.8, 1.6, 2.8. Now, for some recreational riders, that may seem like a high number, but when you get into elite racing, it tends to go up to potentially double that. So you'll be seeing that as we progress into the start of the race today. This is the first bridge that they're going to be crossing, the wooden bridge. It's got a little bit of a bumpy ride, which is also the green jersey sprint point for this direction of Zwift. And you're probably not going to be seeing people specifically contesting the green jersey sprint today, since it does end up detracting a little bit from the actual results of the race, with the green jersey just happening to be in the middle of the lap as opposed to at the very end. It's not likely you're going to see anybody really hammering out a full sprint, but they may end up getting the green jersey just because in this direction, as you can see, you've only got about 10 riders total. Most of the riders go in the other direction, and it's not very likely that you're going to have a huge amount of competition for that sprint point. Right now, the leader of the green jersey competition is coming at a 14.07 seconds, which is a fairly speedy run. However, I've seen 11 seconds, and I'm not even a 1,000 watt sprinter. So not too likely that you're going to be seeing a whole lot of action in that green jersey competition. The orange and the polka dot, however, different story. Absolutely. I think it's very likely you're going to see the orange and the polka dot both going to people that are racing in FTR. So we're getting pretty close to kickoff here. The riders are still taking it easy. You've got 121 beats a minute heart rate. That's indicative of basically a recovery or warm-up rate. That's going to go up by a lot. Okay, Weidman's assuming the front position here. You'll probably see a little bit of an acceleration as we finally get into the start. There's a little bit of a hill they're going up now. You'll see it's not a very steep hill, about 3%. Get over the top of that hill. It's a pretty fast little short descent and then a turn into the bridge. And the bridge is where racing will begin for today. So take a look at the speeds that the riders are going here. We're getting up to 24, potentially maybe a little more than that as we go downhill. That's not a very fast speed, so it is indicative that we're still sort of in the warm-up phase of today's event. You'll probably see speeds in the 30s for some of these downhill sections, or potentially more, maybe even 40. Once they're really hammering. And here we go with the bridge. Immediately you'll see the wattage go way up. 343. His heart rate's going to go along with that very quickly. We're still following Weidman, and Garcia is right in front of him. So now we're going to follow Garcia. The very first section of today's race is a long climb. This is a climb that's anywhere between maybe 4 minutes and 6 minutes, depending on your pace. If you're really going crazy, you may be able to get it a little under 4, but that takes quite an effort. So this climb, although not very steep, it does go on for a while, and it can tend to cause permanent separation. So at the moment, we're following Garcia here, but no one is really hammering. Garcia's just putting out a pretty tepid 4 watts per kilogram. It may seem like a lot, but for racing, believe me, we haven't gotten to the hard stuff yet. So Garcia and Copex are establishing themselves a little bit here. They've only got, well, Garcia's got himself a couple of seconds with Dodsworth here, and Copex is chasing him down. So these first moves, I think, are really just sort of leg stretchers. I'm not thinking this is an actual attack. Things are starting to come back together, with Copex only 1 second down on Dodsworth and Garcia. Wiedmann right there. And the group is pretty much staying together. Garcia just sort of doing a little flyer a few meters off the front. And that's the first of the sort of marker riders we're going by. You'll notice that happens during these races where someone that's just out for a friendly social ride, or maybe they're just riding by themselves, they'll get passed by the racers at a really high rate of speed. And that does happen a lot more often. So we got our first attack of the day. Copex is just heading by, and maybe it was just a little test there, because not quite establishing the gap. It seems we're about halfway up the climb now, and no one's really willing to stand on it, make this thing blow up. Maybe they're waiting for the second lap. Sometimes guys are just a little tired, and no one wants to be the instigator of the real hostile moves. We're following Garcia, and we're basically looking at the entire pack here, which is still together. Everybody's right there in the same group, actually getting a pretty good draft off each other. Once you get into these larger fields in Zwift, the draft is pretty good. The bug only tends to show up when you've got just a few riders, 2 or 3 riders. So we'll continue to follow with Garcia here. And he's starting to lift up the pace a little bit, getting into sprint mode, which is usually 5 to 6, 7 watts per kilogram. He's hitting around 6.7. That's a heck of an attack. So the guys are going to have to make a decision now. Are you going to follow him, or are you going to let him go and hope that he burns himself out here on lap 1? Garcia with a 9 watt per kilogram full attack. He's going full bore, and the guys are letting him go. They are letting him run up the road and get a big gap. He's already got 6 seconds. In a very short space of time, Garcia has pulled 8 seconds on the field. The field are sitting up. They are doing nothing, following him with just a simple 3 watt per kilogram tepid chase, not even chasing. Garcia is still pushing. He's got 5 watts per kilogram now, 4.6. We're just getting to the point of the top here, with Garcia now 16 seconds ahead of the field. On the first lap, this is a serious attack, and the guys are going to have to stand on it and make this thing happen. Someone's got to get to the front and take a good hard pull to pull back Garcia. He's got 18 seconds now. The guys are still heading up the climb as if it was just a club ride, and Garcia is running away with this race right here on lap 1. If they don't watch out for it, they're never going to see him again. And Gil realizes that. He's putting in a pretty hard move here, 6.4 watts per kilogram, but still 17 seconds down on Garcia, who's now got the polka dot jersey. He's put on the polka dot jersey with a 424, which has actually only beaten the current or the previous holder by 0.4 of a second. So the polka dot jersey may actually start bouncing around between riders as we watch this thing. And the rest of us here in the peloton, we're looking at a 25-second gap. The guys are going to have to get together and really start an adequate chase. Otherwise, this thing's going to be a second-place race. Now, once we get into the downhill sections of this thing, in many cases, putting in the extra effort does not actually improve your speed very much. As you can see, Copex putting out 3.9, 4.1 watts per kilogram at 262 watts is not really separating himself from the pack, and a lot of the guys in this pack are only putting out 1.9 or 2.5 watts per kilogram. We're still together on this thing. So it's a pretty good bet that if you manage your energy well on the downhills, you're not going to be losing much time. The uphill seems to be where the real separations happen on Watopia. So Garcia has got 26 seconds. Now that we've gotten into the flat, we're heading into the end of lap 1. And the rest of the chasers seem to be content to just sort of look at themselves and each other. No one's really coming to the front for a good hard pull. Oh, spoke too soon. Dodsworth has come up with 6.7, 6.5 watts per kilogram. He's crushing it now. Hopefully the rest of everyone's going to get on his wheel and let him pull them back to Garcia. Here we are with Dodsworth. Looks like he might have burned himself out a little bit. Not able to maintain that really intense pace. Getting down to 3.9, 3.8. His heart rate is skyrocketing there. We're back here with Wiedmann, who's in the back of the chasing field, along with Pate, and everything is reforming. The guys are trying to get into each other's draft. But again, no one is really putting their head down for a good, hard pull. A lot of times when you're chasing, you can't really burn your matches like that, like we saw with Dodsworth, who's now potentially going to go off the back of this group after taking such a hard pull. You need to manage your effort and not push yourself too hard for a short period of time. It's much better to sort of ease your way into it. But no one's actually willing to do that. So Garcia's still got 21 seconds on this field. And we'll see whether or not they're able to organize this chase and make something happen. Looming ahead of us is going to be that hill again. We get to the second time up that hill, and it's going to be potentially do or die as these riders have a chance to maybe chase down the breakaway. The one-man break, that's Garcia. He's got 23 seconds ahead of this field of 6 riders. All the A's and the C's and B's at the moment are riding together. Nope. It looks like here we are with Garcia, and he's not going quite as hard as he was up the hill, but he hasn't laid off too much. He's still putting out a good solid 3 watts per kilogram. He seems to be waiting a little bit for the hill to come up. He's not pushing himself too hard, but as you can see, once he hits a little bump, his effort goes way up to 5 or 6 watts per kilogram. So he's taking this breakaway very seriously, and he does intend to stay away from this pack. The pack, on the other hand, are not chasing with all that much fury. In fact, he has stretched his lead out to 37 seconds at this point. The alarm bells have to be going off in this group, and if they're not, then the group are either content to race for second, or possibly they're lulled into a false sense of security by Garcia being alone out there. I wouldn't do that. I would take this very seriously. If they don't get together on this chase, they're never going to see him again. Garcia is going to win this thing solo with an attack on lap 1. So here we are, lap 2. We're getting to the top of one of these smaller climbs. Garcia is putting out, for him, it's not a huge effort. but he's keeping it constant, and that's given him a good separation of 30 seconds. Here we are back in the field. Still all together here. Going up that same little hill with Gil leading the way. Not quite enough to get a separation, but he is boosting the tempo just a little bit, up to about 4.5, 5 watts per kilogram. Not quite enough to really bring back Garcia, who's now stretched his lead out to 44 seconds. So I think we're seeing a lot of sort of looking at each other in the pack. And that always plays into the hands of the breakaway, even if it's just a solo rider. I think guys may be feeling a little bit tired. You can see when they go downhill and the watts per kilogram goes way down. Guys may be coasting, trying to save a little bit. They know the big climbs are coming up. And as they wait and sort of save their energies a little bit, they're trying to look for places where they can get away with it. And the downhill's good. You can usually go just about as fast coasting as you can pushing almost threshold if it's a steep downhill. So it's really almost a waste of your energy to try to gain on the downhill unless you're a heavy rider. Yeah, still together here. Garcia's got 43 seconds now, with Gil getting in the aero position, using a little aero power up to try to increase the speed. The guys are going to have to take that seriously too and make sure they stay in the draft, just in case Gil is able to aero his way away from this pack and then try to bridge himself up to Garcia, who's up the road 42 seconds. Everybody stands up, pushing a little bit on this climb, but the power's not going up so much. So again, it seems that everybody's content just to sort of ride in the group without trying so hard to pull back Garcia, who's maintaining a pretty good tempo up there. His power output is dropping slightly, but not enough to allow the field to maintain this slow pace and actually catch him. So unless somebody's going to come up there and take a good hard pull, you're not likely to see Garcia get swallowed up by this field. He's now got 51 seconds. We've got this overhead here. You can't even see Garcia in the overhead picture. And that's a pretty good sign for a breakaway that he can't be seen. Once somebody's out of sight, they tend to not really think about them anymore. So looming ahead of Garcia right now are the great big statues of cyclists that's on the top of the big hill. And so he's got to be thinking about, how much am I going to be putting into this climb? Am I going to go for it and just try to seal the deal right now early in the race, only on the second time up the hill? Or am I going to sit in, or manage my energy a little bit and just sit up and climb this thing at threshold? The guys behind him, again, not really pushing too hard. He's getting close to that minute mark. As they cross this bridge and come up to the old gas station, the guys are going to have to make a decision. What am I going to do this time up the hill? And Garcia's power's going up now, so he's hit the beginning of the climb. Not a full-on attack mode, but with 4.2, 4.3 watts per kilogram, he's definitely trying to maintain his lead at least. The Dodsworth back there is pushing hard, and he appears to be trying to bridge his way up to Garcia. He's got a 3 or 4 second gap on the rest of the field, with Garcia only 36 seconds ahead now. So this may be a good move from Dodsworth. He may be able to bridge his way up if he can keep this pace up but it looks like it's not happening. Copex and Wiedmann are now going into full attack mode. They're going to go right over the top of Dodsworth and potentially close down this gap really soon to Garcia. On Zwift, he's able to look on the same list that we can see right here, and he knows that these guys behind him are pushing as hard as they can to make it up this climb. It's blowing everything apart. Anyone who is not with them on this thing is probably not going to be able to be competitive in this race anymore. And you'll see Dodsworth, who was the initiator of this move, was not able to maintain that power. Pate and Lemon are dropping back 6 seconds behind this move from Wiedmann and Copex. If they can maintain this pace, they may be able to bring back Garcia. 24 seconds, 23 seconds now. That gap is coming down. These guys are pushing as hard as they can. They've got, they're in the fives here. Watts per kilogram, 5.5 from Copex, which is about 350 watts. Now you're following Dodsworth, who's back there, and Gill. We're seeing guys that are getting dropped, basically. This was it. It blew up the chase. Everything, the peloton that had stayed together is now annihilated. It's been demolished into just little bits and pieces. And what we have now is a mad dash to see who can catch with Garcia and potentially get a chance to win this race. 26 seconds. 27 seconds now ahead is Garcia, with Wiedmann and Copex pulling only 1 second ahead from Pate right now. So Pate has found his way back to these riders, and he may be able to rejoin with them, potentially go past them, and see if he can pull his way back up to Garcia in the front. And Garcia sees what's happening here, and his power is going up by quite a bit now. So he's actually found himself into the green jersey and the mountains jersey at the same time. I remember as we were talking about, the green jersey was probably the least likely jersey to be worn by somebody who was in this race, except for the fact that there are very few people on Watopia going in this direction today. So now here we are back with Pate. It looks like the guys got a little tired there. We're still going up the climb, and they're only putting out maybe 3.5 watts per kilogram. That's not going to do very well if they want to try to get Garcia back on this lap. Garcia is still pushing hard. He's still got 38 seconds, 39 seconds on these guys. The chase is down to 3. We had a group of 6 before. Lemon, Dodsworth, and Gill have all been dropped. They're now 21 seconds behind the group that we're looking at now, which is Pate, Wiedmann, and Copex. 45 seconds ahead of them is Garcia, who is still pushing hard to the top of this climb. You got to wonder what's going through the minds of these competitors today. Are they thinking, well, maybe if I just kind of sit in for a little bit, someone else will do the work, or potentially Garcia is not going to be able to pull away too much on this lap, and so we can wait until next lap to try to catch him. Well, I got to tell you guys, he's got a minute 03, minute 04. The gap is coming up and up and up. It's just getting bigger and bigger. This trio is going to have to really put down some big watts in order to chase back Garcia, who's getting past the minute point. So the situation on the road now, we've got Garcia way ahead of everyone, 1 minute 14. We're now coming to the start-finish line, the beginning of lap 3. Garcia still pushing hard, still getting up around 4 watts per kilogram here on the flat. He's being chased by a trio of riders, Copex, Pate, and Wiedmann. You got to wonder what's going through the minds of these riders. Are they thinking, he can't possibly keep this pace up? He's going to crack. And if I try to chase him, it's stupid because he's going to get caught anyway. Or are they thinking, when's going to be my chance to bridge up here without dragging these other 2 guys up to him? Or potentially, are they thinking, well, you know, there's 3 of us, so if we help each other, we can pull this guy back, make it into a race with 4 guys instead of just 3 guys racing for second place. So there are a whole lot of different kind of tactical scenarios that can play themselves out in a situation like this. But as we're watching here, Garcia is just maintaining his gap, and no one seems to be willing to push hard enough to make this into a real concerted effort. Everybody comes to the front. They do a little bit of a turn, but not hard enough to make that much of a difference. And so you'll see Garcia's gap here is holding there around the 1 minute mark. And that's not going to... Oh, and here comes the move from Copex. That's a full-on attack mode. The rest of the guys are going to have to stand on it and make it with him. Wiedmann is going with him. So Copex and Wiedmann, full gas. Full attack mode. This is the move. Here's the bridge move from Copex. He wants to get up to Garcia. He wants to get a chance to win this event. With Wiedmann is 2 seconds behind him. He's going as hard as he can, trying to pull him back, trying to pull Copex back. And Copex is just hammering away. And he's still got it going. He's pulled things back a little bit. He's only down to about 1 minute even between Copex and Garcia. He's got a 5-second gap on Wiedmann, who has now got a 7-second gap on Pate, so everything is starting to blow up. We may be into time trial mode here with no groups left at this point. That was the move. That was the death knell for whatever remained of this group. And now Copex is continuing to push hard. He, even after such an enormous attack, is still able to maintain over 5 watts per kilogram. With Garcia a minute ahead of him, maintaining around 4, this gap is going to come down. Yep, Wiedmann here is almost being caught by Pate. So it's possible we've got a little group of 2. So maybe these guys can actually put something together and chase back Copex, who seems to be really on a mission here to make his way back up to Garcia. Copex has not gone below 5 watts per kilogram quite some time now. And I can tell you that 5 watts per kilogram is no joke in racing. And he's now gotten it below 1 minute for the first time. It's likely it's going to come down even more. So as we continue to watch, these gentlemen are watching both first place and second place go up the road. The only question remaining is Copex going to be able to make contact with Garcia, or will he stay in no man's land? Is he going to burn every match he's got trying to chase back Garcia, who's clearly not got the same legs that Copex has right now? I mean, Garcia is putting out maybe 3.9, Copex with 5.3. On paper, right now, it looks like Copex is going to do it. He's going to make this catch, and we're going to have 2 guys up in the front. But Copex has already gotten about 22 seconds on the chasing riders of Pate and Wiedmann. So It looks like this thing's going up the road, fellas, and in absence of something really strong coming from Peyton Wiedemann, then they're going to be going for third place at this point. And any of the riders that were formerly in this group from the C field and the B field have now been completely dropped, almost a minute down on this duo. But the real action that's happening is this move from Copex, who is still putting out 5.2, 5.3 watts per kilogram now, up the road. He's made it almost halfway to Garcia. Garcia must know that it's happening. He's got the same feed that we do, so Garcia's got to be aware of the fact that Copex is making this bridge move up to him. And the question is, does he want Copex to catch him? Is he actually sitting up and saving his energy to turn this thing into a two-man breakaway and maybe get a chance to sit in a draft for a while? Or is he just getting tired and maybe he wants to stay away from them, but he's just unable to do it? Now, this is Copex. We're still seeing him around that 5 watt per kilogram marker, which is really sort of a magic marker for road racers. So you get to that 5 point, and it's pretty serious. So you've got it down to, I think, 39 seconds now ahead of Copex. We're following Copex here. The video's on him. Garcia is actually starting to ramp it up a little bit. So maybe he wants to see if he can maintain the gap, rather than take his chances with a two-man. A stunning move from Copex here. He's been able to maintain over 5 watts per kilogram for probably already 3-4 minutes, and we're just now starting the climb. So this is going to be a do or die point in this race. You'll see what happens now. Do they still have the legs to be able to power themselves up this big climb, or have they burnt themselves out just with this attack and then subsequent bridge move from Copex and Garcia trying to keep him away? That time gap is coming down. It's down to 26 seconds. As we begin the climb here, we go past Hank's gas station, and Copex is still churning away, but Garcia's output has now gone up to match him. So as long as they maintain this same power, they should be able to maintain the same distance as they're climbing here. Here we are with Garcia, who's now the owner of the orange jersey, which is our lap time leader. We knew that was going to happen. It's very unlikely that anyone who is not in the race would have much of a chance of getting the lap award. The question is Copex going to catch him? And I think he is, because right now it looks like Copex has got an extra watt per kilogram on Garcia. Garcia may be getting a little tired here, and Copex has not gone below 5 watts per kilogram in some time. He's been able to really maintain this powerful move. So you can tell now that that was his plan all along. He did not want to drag the rest of these guys up to the breakaway. He wanted to do it all by himself, so he made this potent attack, followed by a really strong threshold type move. As you can see, his heart rate is pretty high. I don't particularly know what his maximum heart rate is, but my assumption is that he is at least in his threshold zone right now. He may be actually exceeding threshold a little bit. And so the question is, how long can he maintain this output? If and potentially when, it seems like it's almost a done deal now. When he catches Garcia, is he going to be so tired that he can no longer race, or is he just going to keep on going and go right past him? Garcia putting out a little extra power here as we get into one of these shorter little climbs that happen over the course of the long climb. With Copex has been keeping it steady. He's got 5.2, 5.3 watts per kilogram going. Hasn't really deviated from that. With Garcia, we've seen that his output has been a lot more terrain dependent than we're seeing with Copex, who is just putting out a steady effort. And that steady effort has been, on the whole, on average, a little more than what Garcia has been doing. And so what you're seeing is a very slow but very steady catch. So can he do it? Does he have enough in the tank? Is he going to be able to catch Garcia? Garcia's power is not so high right now. Copex maintaining that 5 watts per kilogram, maintaining that kind of output. You can tell from looking at his heart rate that he has been pinned for this whole time. He's really put in a lot of effort. He's able to keep spinning at a fast cadence, which for him may be natural. And now here we are with Garcia, whose effort level doesn't seem to be quite as high as Copex, so perhaps Garcia is actually expecting that Copex is going to catch him and is hoping that the two of them may be able to just simply sit in with each other for a little while, recover, and then look about to race this thing as a two-man breakaway and see if they can try to find some way of tactically defeating one another. Yes, Garcia is now coasting, so very likely that he's expecting Copex to make the catch. So as we remember, the actual attack happened before the green jersey sprint. So it was after the orange jersey finish line, and he goes up a couple of small hills there, and then I think that's when the move happened. So it's just been almost a full lap chase from Copex, who's still around that 5 watt per kilogram zone. So it may be clear to us now who's got the legs. Copex seems to have the ability to maintain this kind of output for quite some time. He's closing in on being a full lap at this intense power level. Garcia is still serious about staying away from Copex, but he's managing his energy now. He's taking some time to rest a little bit on some of these downhill sections, and the gap is now only 18 seconds. So Copex seems very it seems very likely that he's going to catch Garcia on this lap. So here we're looking at the overall lap times. Garcia has got the leading lap time right now of 13:49. It's a very fast lap. Perhaps we're going to see that eclipsed by this run from Copex as we see him crossing the finish line now. Yes. So Copex comes in with a 13:18. That's almost a half a minute faster. The difference, of course, just this one chase. It looks like almost a full watt per kilogram difference in terms of their average output over the entire course distance of one lap. So that was a third time up. This should be the fourth time. There will be one last climb after this one, and then race finish. So Copex now has got it down to 10 seconds. I think Garcia is pretty much certain that he's going to get caught. Copex is still putting out that 5.2. He doesn't seem to be getting tired. He's obviously got a lot of energy today, and it's looking pretty good for Copex. Here we are with Garcia. His heart rate's been going down slightly, so he may be saving it. You know, thinking about what happens when I get caught. It's only 3 seconds now. Copex still in chase mode. He has not let off the pedals throughout this entire effort, which has now been an entire lap of 13, 14, 15 minutes. So full gas from Copex. Now, does he go right past him or does he slow down? He's slowing down with finally going well below 5 watts per kilogram. You'll see now he's only around 3. Garcia around the same. So the two of these guys are going to sit up and take a little breather from this chase. And we're basically going to press the reset button. We've got a 2-man race for first. The remaining riders in the A field are now almost 2 minutes behind these two. So this is your podium. The only question, which one's first, which one's second? And of course, we're looking at some of the riders in the back here. Dodsworth and Gill are in the C field. Wiedmann in the A field, they're down by about 2 minutes. So they're aware of this, and they've probably just decided, well, I'm going to let these guys just, you know, duke it out for first place, and I'm gonna be thinking about who's going to be coming third on this FTR. Garcia with a little move here seems to be... No, actually, I think maybe that was just a little leg stretcher. It happens sometimes when the terrain changes quickly. Sometimes riders that are using a smart trainer like a kicker actually have to do this in order to maintain their tempo. And if a rider is just using a power meter, they may be able to just maintain a steady tempo regardless of terrain. There is some argument as to which is easier, and it seems to me the kicker gives you a little bit of an advantage because it does sort of keep the momentum going past the point where you actually stop pushing, whereas the power meter doesn't do that. Once you stop, it stops too. So I'd say 6.5 dozen. You know, they probably end up evening out. What it's really going to come down to is who's got the legs. I don't think this is an equipment-based competition that's happening right now. After that enormous chase from Copex, we just wonder what does he have left. Garcia's actually pulled another second away from him now. So this is the bug we were talking about, where it becomes very difficult, especially for only 2 riders, to draft each other. Unless they somehow manage to get past the bug. Right now, rather than drafting each other, these 2 riders are just side by side. Both of them are wasting a lot of energy in not being able to draft, and of course they can't do anything about it since there's no steering here on Zwift. That's a drafting bug in a nutshell. So looming ahead of us is the big climb. And what's on everyone's mind, in addition to who's going to attempt to make the move, is who's actually got the legs left. It would seem that Garcia had the easier time of it during that big chase, since Copex really must have burnt quite a few matches to make the chase, and Garcia got to sort of sit in, nosebreed for a while, as much as one can if you're off the front. But we'll see. Once they actually hit the big climb, you're going to know, and you're probably going to know for sure either this time or the next time going up this climb, which one of these guys has got the legs to get the win. As we come across the bridge now, with the mountain looming ahead, this should be the penultimate climb, and you'll notice again that the guys are having a lot of trouble drafting each other. It seems to be almost random with whether or not you end up in the draft, and so that can take a lot out of the legs of these riders. It seems almost like Copex is at a bit of a disadvantage, putting out more power per kilogram than Garcia at the moment, and still behind him, and not able to actually close the distance in order to get into the draft. But once the actual climb begins, that becomes a lot less of an issue, and we are just starting to climb at this point. So the question is, are they going to just sit up and look at each other and maybe take this thing easy, or is someone going to attack, and are we going to see some real racing going on this penultimate ascent of the climb here on Zwift? Well, it doesn't look like either one of these guys is willing or able to put a big dig in here, although Copex is starting to hit that 5 watt per kilogram mark again, and so is Garcia. So it seems like they're not taking it completely easy, but also not thinking about attacking, and maybe deciding that it's going to be better to try to keep my opponent as close as possible for the rest of this lap, and see about sorting this thing out on the final lap, today's race. Again, you see the big difference here with Garcia almost coasting his way down this little slight descent, Copex maintaining even power. When we get back to the steeper section here, Garcia's power goes quite a bit up, which is indicative of him using the smart trainer. Copex maintaining a steady output. It doesn't seem to affect their actual positioning in the race. It's just a little bit of a different profile for the power output for both riders. But neither one of them seems to be actually willing to commit to an attack at this point. Perhaps they're waiting for the final lap. Another thing you see with these training races here on Zwift is riders have a tendency to blow straight through these little pelotons of AI riders. The AIs are usually a little faster than your recreational speed and not nearly fast enough to be competitive in the truly race speed events that we have here on Zwift. You'll see Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, or Friday afternoon, which is today's race. During the winter, there's a Saturday morning race. The AIs tend to just be traffic cones for people to ride past. Unless the riders are just sort of taking it easy, which they are right now, so the AI riders are almost keeping pace. That's not going to last, though. I'm sure they'll recede into the distance very shortly. As we look at the KOM leaderboard right now, Copex has got it by quite a bit, 4:13 versus the next fastest time, Pate, which is 4:22. Almost a full 10-second difference, and it's most likely that that happened on his attack lap, where he bridged his way up to Garcia, who had almost a complete minute from the field, which was, of course, destroyed by this move from Copex. And now that the two of them are together, the rest of the riders in this race are so far behind that we're not even seeing them on our nearby riders list. Wiedmann is the only one that's on the list right now, a minute and 49 behind our group of two leaders here. So now we begin the descent here on our fourth lap. The fifth lap will begin shortly. The riders are definitely taking it easy on this section of the race, and probably thinking about what am I going to do in this final lap to try to shake my partner here. Nice overhead shots here of Zwift. It's a very beautiful place to ride. In fact, this is such a beautiful virtual environment that many of us here on Zwift have chosen to spend time here in the virtual setting rather than riding out in the real world, even on days when the weather's good. It's very possible you'll find riders that chose to be in this incredibly beautiful tropical and mountainous environment that Zwift has created for us. And there's an immense amount of gratitude among the community for Zwift to have produced this awesome experience for all of us. So here comes a little bit of a push from Copex. He's getting back to that 5 watt per kilogram zone, but again, it really seems to be related to the drafting difficulties that we have been talking about, with Garcia still ahead of him, putting out a much smaller effort. So one wonders, with that kind of handicap, is Copex going to have what it takes to stick a win here? Or has Garcia been able to capitalize on those little moments of saving your energy and turn that into an attack that's going to win this race? So we start the final lap now. 23 miles into our FTR Friday Training Race here on Zwift. We've got a little good luck message from Garcia, and I guess that means that maybe they're not partners anymore. They're going to, see about who's going to win this thing. And right now they're just sort of sitting in with these AI riders, see how it turns out. So they're talking about maybe sprinting. He's saying, who knows, this thing is still tactical. We're going to see what happens. Exciting to watch this thing. Yep, Garcia, he doesn't know if there's going to be a sprint. He's like, oh, I want there to be one. And, yep, so there we go. Garcia has shown his hand. He wants a sprint. Copex is probably knows now that he's got to attack and get away. And the only question is where and when. So here we are on the last lap. The situation on the road, we've got a group of two, Copex and Garcia, riding together about 2 minutes ahead of our third place riders, Wiedmann, and Gill is about 2 minutes behind him. So everything has just detonated. We're into almost time trial mode for the rest of the riders today. Garcia and Copex leading this A race. They're starting to show some little spirit here on some of these smaller climbs. We're just waiting for the big one and expecting that that's where the real move is going to happen for this ride. Garcia and Copex glued together. Both got similar bikes, a little different colors here on Zwift. Copex choosing the disc rear, Garcia with the twin 404s or 808s. Hard for me to tell, actually. Both of them with aero bikes. And as we go across this plank bridge, Copex seems to be pushing a little harder. But again, he's behind Garcia. So this is another case of the draft issue. Trying to find his way back into the draft. And here he's made contact again. Copex wearing the mountain and the lap leader's jersey. Neither one of them has got the sprint, which they're not going to get now. That was, I believe, the last time through the sprint there, and they're still almost a full second away from getting that sprint. So the sprint seems to be pretty much sewn up by a non-racer, Jay Samuels, who's just fun riding. So with these two riders ahead, we've got 2 minutes 21 ahead of third place rider Wiedmann. They've got plenty of time to sit up if they really want to. It's not necessary for them to actually get into a team time trial mode in order to get 1-2 in this race. So they are definitely aware of that, and they're thinking, how can I beat this guy? How can I get the advantage somehow and turn this thing into a win for me rather than a second place? I know I'm going to get at least second. The question is, how do I get first place? That's what's on the mind of both of these riders. They're both conserving their energy now. We're seeing a lower beats per minute, lower wattage from both of these guys as we get to that looming mountain that's ahead of us. It's going to be the last time up the mountain. Guys are aware of that, and it's probably going to come down to who's got enough gas in the tank, who still has the legs to make the move and stick it to the end of this thing. As you remember, when Copex was doing his enormous bridge move, his heart rate was pinned at about 175. He's hitting a 152, 153 right now. Pretty big difference. So he's had a lot of time to rest, comparatively rest. It's not like sitting on the couch, but he's getting a lot more rest than he had been earlier. So how fresh is Copex's legs? How fresh are Garcia's legs? We're going to find out really soon. Final time going through the metal bridge. This is where the race began, and it's going to end at the orange jersey sprint point. The next time through the orange jersey sprint, we're going to do one more climb over the mountain, and then we'll see who's going to win this FTR on Zwift here. Friday training race. Breakaway of 2. Garcia, Copex. They pass Hanks. They this point, they go through this line, and they are now on the time section of this KOM climb, and we're going to find out if either one of these guys has got the legs to make an attack and try to get away from his partner and secure the win today. But they're both just sort of sitting in, not putting in the effort. They're both 26 miles into this ride. Copex, his power starts to go up a little bit and then back down, so they're just kind of sitting, looking at each other, not yet ready to make the move. When's it going to... Oh, and here, Copex with an 9.4, 7 watts per kilogram. This is the move. Garcia has to answer it. Garcia coming up with an 8.4 watts per kilogram. They're both into full attack mode. Is Garcia going to be able to hold this? Copex has got a 1 second gap on him, but Garcia is putting everything he has into this move. Try to catch up with Copex, who's putting in an enormous effort now. He's gone above 10. He's gone into the red zone for sure. His beats per minute are maxed out. 176, 500, 600, 700 watts. This is the move of the day. It's a full-on sprint move with Copex putting out huge power, and Garcia can only watch him go away. He's used the last of his power-ups to try to make the difference here, to try to pull back his breakaway partner. But Copex has got 2 seconds on him already and still is able to maintain 6 watts per kilogram. Yes, you can tell he's tired now, and he's got to take a little bit of a break there. But Copex stands on it again and comes back up to 7.8 watts per kilogram. He's pushing as hard as he can, beats per minute up to 180, and this is the move. This is what's happening now. Garcia can only watch. Garcia's watts per kilogram has gone way down. He's at the point now when he's given up. You can tell the pain has just gotten so great that he cannot follow this attack. He cannot make the difference. The Copex knows it, and he's pushing. He's pushing harder and harder as we climb up this hill. This was the move. This is what Copex was waiting for the entire time. He bridged his way up. He spent an entire lap in no man's land between the peloton and Garcia, who had been off the front since almost the beginning of the race. Copex chased him down with a 5 watt per kilogram lap. Now he's gone right back to that with this enormous move. We're now following Garcia. Garcia is now 25 seconds behind him. His power output has gone down into the basement, which indicates that he's just given up on any chance of winning this thing. Watching Copex, who's almost a half a minute ahead of him, go away with the championship for this race on FTR, Friday Training Race here on Zwift, with Garcia watching Copex right away from him. He's taking a drink of water. We don't know if he's doing that in real life, but that happens here on Zwift at various random intervals. So remember, everybody, to drink your water as often as your little guy does here on Zwift. That's one of the important things to remember as a cyclist. You always have to keep drinking that water. Copex, just unstoppable. He's putting out 7 watts per kilogram. Now taking a little breather, back down to 5. 5 is low compared to where he had been. And Garcia, almost a minute behind him, 50 seconds. That is capitulation, folks. Copex knows he's got this thing in the bank, and he's going for it. Here we come. Almost to the top of this hill with Copex. Is he going to get the KOM? He's already got the KOM at 4:13. What kind of time is he going to get now? Is it going to increase, or is it below 4:13? We'll know whether or not. As soon as he crosses this thing, it's either going to change or it'll stay at 4:13. 4:04. That is the move of the day. Copex with a 4:04 ascent of the mountain here on Zwift, and now it's a done deal. The only question is he going to have any network issues between now and the finish line, which is only about a minute or two away? With Copex has got 59 seconds on Garcia. He got all of that in one climb of the mountain. Copex, your winner today. He only has to actually cross the line in order to seal the deal. He's got this thing in the bank. He knows it's happening. In fact, he's already telephoned his broker and told him to buy Copex stock today, because this is the move of the day. He's already done it. Now it's just a formality for him to cross the line. Coming up on Samuels here, who is not actually part of our race. He doesn't have the FTR designation, and I believe this is the second time that you've come around Samuels here. And so the question is it going to be a two-man sprint? Of course, Copex is the winner of this race, regardless of who finishes first on this line. And we've got a few technical issues here, so folks, please bear with us as we find our way through the rigmarole of strange technicals. Here we are back live. So Copex and Samuels are riding together towards the final finish line. They've got 1 minute and 18 seconds on Garcia, who has basically resigned himself to coming in second place. Is Copex going to actually take this sprint, or will Samuels beat him just for the bragging rights of finishing first across the line? Copex, of course, has got the win. Samuels is not part of the FTR, so are they going to stand? Yes, and here comes the sprint. Copex seems to have what it takes to make this thing happen. He's pushing. He's going for the line, and yes, he makes it. He gets the sprint. He comes in with a 13:18 lap time. Copex, your champion for today. And here's Garcia, who's got about a minute before he finishes this amazing ride, where he started off in the field, and then right on lap one, as we got to the top of the mountain, he attacked. He gained about 25 seconds on the field, was able to keep that going. A lap later, he was almost a minute ahead before Copex finally made the bridge move, turned this into a two-man race, and then turned it into a one-man race. So here we go with a full-on, full-gas sprint coming from Garcia, 17.4 watts per kilogram. He's a hell of a sprinter here. It's too bad that he didn't get his chance to go head-to-head with Copex at the line. I think he might have had it. So there you have it, folks. First place, Copex. Second place, Garcia. Third place, Wiedmann.